Welcome to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida's newest, hottest show, Business Between the Lines. Hosted by Kristi Kirkland, a business accelerator at Answer Marketing, and co-hosted by Jayson Price, a video guru at Ripplify Media.
Hey, Jayson.
Hey, Kristi.
And welcome back to Business Between the Lines. Between the Lines. Our third of our mini-series and our last, hopefully, well, you know what? If the show doesn't happen April 3rd, then we'll just do another one of these.
We'll just do another one.
And it'll be great, hopefully, that you guys have been following us, that you've really gotten some value out of this, that you've enjoyed the talks that we've had and pulled some tips and just some insight and stuff, some good food for thought out of them. But welcome back. And today we are another topic that we almost started again.
Yeah, we're in like the behind the scenes, like about to start rolling, and we're like, yeah, so we're going to talk about this topic. Well, that reminds me. And then I start just telling her all the stuff. I'm like, no, stop talking, stop, hit record. Then we'll begin.
Yeah, if you guys haven't noticed, Jayson and I have no problem talking.
Yep.
And that brings us to our topic today, because our personalities, I think, is what really makes this all work. But personalities can really put make it hard or make it easy for you to communicate with other people. And I teach the people that I coach, I teach them they have to be a chameleon with their personality so that they can communicate better. And it's funny when I hear from some people talking about, oh, she's really outgoing. And then somebody else will talk and say, she's very laid back and easy to speak to. And it's because I'm matching who I'm talking with. So when I'm with you, we get very animated. Yeah. Because we
and very loud. Turn down the gain on the mics a little bit.
We feed off of each other, but that's part of from our last show, a habit. That's a habit that I have created, that I have cultivated in with my personality to match who I'm talking to. Because if you think about it, if you talk to somebody that is very quiet and you have a personality like yours and mine, we could very well
run over like a freight truck,
squash them and dominate the conversation. We would never get the value out of that connection because we would never really fully get all of their side of what they have to say and their personality. It would not come out because we would totally dominate that. And that's
a question that just popped in my brain, because I know how this is for me. Have you always been like this? Have you always been the very easily take control over the room sort of personality, or is that something you kind of grew into at some point?
No, I was always my own person. But I was very, I don't know where I got it from, but I'm a people watcher. I love to just watch people talk and their animations and how they conduct themselves. It's very fascinating to me. I could sit in a mall. My father-in-law is like this. I think my husband is somewhat like this as well. We could get a chair and put it in the middle of the mall and just watch people and their interactions. It's so fascinating.
Oh, I'm the exact same way.
Yeah.
Like my wife and I both, we'll be sitting around, there's this beautiful park in Gainesville, Florida called Depot Park. And, oftentimes we'll just take in walks and we'll both stop and we're listening into someone's conversation and we're like, I wonder what they're talking about. That's so weird.
No, I think the chameleon side of my personality came out later in some of the businesses, the companies that I used to work with put me through a lot of different trainings and stuff. This was back when owners really invested in their employees and sent them through trainings. I was very blessed to have gotten a lot of those, and I read a lot of books and stuff. One of my favorite ones is from Dr. Hartman, and it's The Color Code. And the second book that follows up that is The Character Code. And the color code is kind of that whole breakdown. You always hear these people that they take these personality tests. Am I a D type and I S type and I type, whatever. This kind of, to me, it just made more sense. It broke out the personalities into colors, and it really delved deep on how they react to people of other personalities. But in some of the trainings that that I had gone through, one of them was on, listening with 2 ears and speaking with 1 mouth. It's the way God made us. And there's a reason for that, that you get more out of conversations, you hear more, you learn more and stuff. And I had a really good teacher that taught me that. And I just took it to that next level. And now when I talk with people, if they're very quiet, then you'll hear me kind of drop an octave and lower. And I mean, even my facial expressions get very softer or a lot softer. And my mannerisms, my arms aren't all over the place. I'm not all animated. I'm more reserved and meet that person so that we can have a better communication. Now, that's not to say my true personality doesn't struggle with matching some people. There was a friend of mine, I used to tell him, I was like, there's no way I can slow down any further to match his. This is exactly how he would talk.
Geez.
I'm not exaggerating. He thought between each word, and he was a very intentional person, very deep thinker, but he would carry on a whole conversation in his head in between each word, and I couldn't slow down that much. I was like, I'm going to meet you as far as I can, but you're going to have to.
In between breaths, you're going to have a meeting with somebody and come back.
I could totally work out my grocery list, design a training video. I mean, all kinds of stuff in between. And then once he got to the end of his sentence, I would put it all together in my head, and then I would be able to respond because I would piece it back together.
Yeah, it's like you're playing back at like 10x speed.
Yes. So that is definitely something that is an art form. If you can do that, it will make your life so much easier and so much more insightful and more interesting. The people I've met and the things that I have heard, a lot of people don't get it because they're too fast in life and they're too caught up in their own personality that they don't slow down enough to communicate genuinely with someone and listen with the intent to hear and understand, not answer. That's a big one for a lot of people.
That's so huge.
Yeah, they listen to someone and it's because they're wanting to glean something that will help them with what they're going to say next or what they're wanting to say already before they even had the conversation, before they even knew what that other person was going to say. They already knew in their mind, this is what I want to say. And they're just waiting for that person to take a breath for them to take over the conversation.
There's a book in the last episode I spoke about, my roommate that I had a couple years ago, Caleb. He's my very best friend. And he's in Panama City. We were going through a book on leadership. And there was one of those chapters, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the daggone book, but it was one of the best books I ever read. And I'm not a big book reader. I listen to audiobooks. This is one of the few books I actually read chapter to chapter with real
Jim
ink on
Hayden,
paper.
see, there's other people in the world that are not book readers too, and I love them as much as I love you.
So in that book, it's talking about what we're talking about right now. It's how to listen intentionally. And one quote from it was, if you ever in a conversation with somebody and they're speaking and you have a thing that you want to say, think to yourself in that moment, if I were to wait 5 minutes from now, is that thing still of value? And if it is, then you might just want to go ahead and input it. It might be the way to carry on the conversation. It's not that you should never interrupt people.
Right.
Because I kind of interrupted you to bring what my thought is right now.
That's all right. That's what we do.
Exactly. And you just interrupted me right there, but it added value. But if what you're about to say doesn't add value, if it doesn't add to what they're saying, if it's not about what they're saying, then you're just interrupting and you're pounding them down. Which, going back to personalities, I have to recognize and have self-awareness that it's very easy for me to take over an entire conversation.
Right.
I can talk very long and I almost always have something to say.
Yeah. Ooh, I have a story on top of that and I can one up that one. Yeah. Another thing that is a training technique that I learned a long time ago was when you're in a conversation, this helps you get out of your head, but think about the conversation you're about to have and tell yourself, I need to remember this conversation so I can tell, and just make up somebody. Or you can just say, hey, Alex, use your wife for an example. Say, I'm going to have this conversation with Kristi and I want to repeat it. I want to let Alex know about it later. And then you're actually listening with both ears, because you're listening with the idea that you're going to repeat this whole conversation and share what I'm saying to you to somebody else. So now it's not so much about what you're saying, because you already know what you're going to talk about. That's a given. Yeah. But you don't know what I'm going to say. So you have to listen with enough intent that you would be able to repeat that conversation to somebody else later. And it puts your mindset in a different frame when you do it.
That's really cool. I really like that.
Now he's like,
oh, now that really something. Yeah.
Okay. So
really
talking about personalities, what's a personality trait of yours you don't like?
Okay. I think one for me is I now am a pretty active listener. But that is definitely a learned trait that I would consider myself to be really good at now. But I used to be the person that would be somebody who's in a conversation and all I'm thinking about is, okay, was that breath a breath because I need to breathe, or are they finished? Okay, so when can I go ahead and when is an appropriate time for me to give my input on this conversation? Because I valued what I had to say more than what other people had to say. And I was listening for what response should I have? And whenever they would talk, we all have this time, parts in the conversation where you're like, oh, okay, I have something to say about that. And then you're like, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. So you dedicate all your brain power to remembering the thing that you want to say. And then funny enough, whenever they get to the end of what they're talking about, you both forgot, you didn't listen to anything that they said. And you realize the comment that you had is now completely irrelevant, which then goes back to what that book was talking about. Is if what you have to say is going to be irrelevant at the next thought, it's probably not that important. So just keep it to yourself and actively listen, because everybody just wants to be known and to be understood.
Yeah. And honestly, if you actively listen to somebody, those thoughts that you're going to have are going to come full circle when they finish their thought process. And it'll be more valid if you take your time with the conversation and stuff. My personality trait that I struggle with on a regular basis, I have no patience. And one of the biggest compliments I've received was when I was teaching somebody how to do some stuff in social media, and they say, you have the patience of a saint. I cannot believe you are so good with me right now. And I just wanted score. You couldn't have said a nicer thing to me. You couldn't have told me that my skin was glowing or my hair was spot on. Nothing would have surmounted that compliment, because it is an ongoing battle with my personality, that I'm one of those ones that I'm just an action taker, and I dive into things and I don't wait, and I am very fast on a lot of stuff that I do. And I think it out as I'm going along, but I don't put a whole lot into that. So my patience level when I'm doing stuff, if I'm in a conversation with someone or we're taking steps and we're like, hey, we need to do this, this, and this, I'm already starting to do the first thing that you mentioned. I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So. As you were talking, it just made me realize, whenever you asked me mine, I told you about a thing that I used to hate, but now I'm like really good at.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, and then it popped in my brain, the thing that, I just lost it. What happened? It just completely slipped my mind. What was the thing that I don't like?
That you don't like on your personality?
Yeah, it was something I don't like about my personality right now that I'm working on.
What about something that you really like?
Oh my gosh. This never happens to me. My brain's completely melted.
Totally blanked.
Oh my gosh.
This is to our live audience and those listening in. This is a one-offer. It's never happened before, and you are here to witness it firsthand. And I just never thought that would happen.
Oh my gosh. This is the one time that Jayson doesn't have something to say.
Okay, so let me see.
Okay, go ahead.
That no patience is my flaw, my worst personality character deflaw or whatever. I would say personality wise, which I don't know. I mean, I guess each of us have our own way of looking at stuff, things that I would think is a good thing, somebody else might not. And I have been told this about one of my personality characters that I think is a good thing, which is the action taker, which is that, taking that step and not waiting and pushing forward and making things happen. I don't slow down for anything, and I'm very driven. And I actually have this verbiage on my website. If y'all want to go check it out, KristiAKirkland.com, and it's KRISTI, just so for all those Kristis out there. But if you go there, it actually says my path is of my own choosing, that the way that I'm driven and what I do and the speed that I take things in and what all I take on myself is of my own choosing. It might not be the right path for you, but that's okay. We can still be great friends. And that's something that I have to constantly tell some people because they feel like they're not at that same speed or they don't want to be. And that's okay. But people have seen that personality quirk in me as something negative, whereas I see it as something positive, that I'm very driven. And so I try to put a lot of people around me that are also very driven so that I don't feel bad about my level of dedication to things and my ambitions. Whereas somebody else that wasn't at that level or doesn't want to be would see that as a negative and be like, you're constantly pushing me to be more than what I'm ready to be. So,
yeah, because there's definitely people like my brother and I have talked about this a lot, where there are people who, the goal of being a multimillionaire is a step one, and billionaire is a step two, and trillionaire is step three,
Right.
And then this is something that like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about a lot, that actually, I don't like everything that he says, but I like that this one, what he says is there's a huge category of people where their dream in life is to be able to make like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year and have plenty of time to spend with their family. And then there's other people who their dream in life is to be a multimillionaire and be the CEO of 14 different companies and travel every single day of the year. And both of those people can have the exact same level of life fulfillment.
Yes. And that goes back to that last mini session that we had about, habits and stuff. And is this really one that you want?
Exactly.
Or is it what somebody else is telling you want? And we have to be very self-aware in life to live our best life and make these decisions for ourselves. A prime example, I had someone reach out to me on my Instagram account, and it cracked me up because we got in an argument. They wanted to help me with my Insta. They said, we can get you more followers. And I said, I'm happy with the ones I have. And they said, well, your content is amazing. You should have more interactions and we can get you more business. And I said, I'm happy with the business I have. And they were like, I don't understand. I'm very happy with the balance I have in my life. I have just the kind of business I want. I have the level that I want. This is
having
everything.
a bigger business is not always the best thing for you.
Right. And I was like, I have an amazing family. I'm building a shipping container home and I'm writing a book and I'm very fulfilled in my life. I don't need any more.
Is your goal to have fulfillment? Is your goal to make money, to grow your business?
Yeah.
Because if you want to make money or grow your business, both of those things are just tools to get fulfillment.
And again, I am making money and I am growing my business, but I'm growing it at my determined speed for my personality and for my ambitions, for my goals, for what I want in life. And they just could not wrap their heads around it. And they're like, we'll do it for free for you for a month to show you what we can do. And I said, I appreciate it. And I thank you for your attention to my account and, and your willingness to help and to give this, but no, thank you. And they just could not fathom why I did not want their help to grow even more. And I was like, I'm good, but thank you.
Oh man.
So do you remember?
I do remember now. I picked it up and I wrote it down so that I could continue actively listening. I jotted it away so I don't have to think about it.
Look at you.
So now I can look down at it. I am very, very stubborn. And I despise being rushed. If it's we need to get out the door, because this is how my brain works. And Alex and I had to have a full come to Jesus sit down on how Jayson's brain works. Going back to, high amounts of pride that I have in my life with my personality. And if I don't think something's important, I just won't put the effort in. But once I see it's important, then I'll do it. So for me, I have such a like my whole life is a leaf in the wind kind of mentality. It's like, we'll leave when we leave. We'll get there when we get there. So long as we're caring about the people we need to care about and we're doing things we need to do, we're fine. If there's a reason to get somewhere at a certain time, then I'm going to do everything I can to be able to get there at that time. So if we're ever being rushed out the door, we go and we live in Gainesville right now, and we visit Panama City pretty often. And a struggle we have almost every time we are in Panama City on the weekend and going back to Gainesville is at some point on Sunday, we have to decide, okay, when are we going to make the 4-hour drive back to Gainesville?
Right.
And for me, I'm like, we're enjoying it. We're having time with family. Why don't we go ahead and, we'll have have lunch with everybody, and then we'll kind of hang out for a bit, might take a little Sunday, a little siesta, and then, head back. And then my wife is frustrated, because what my wife is thinking about is, well, we still have to go grocery shopping when we get home and get lunches ready and that sort of stuff. And to me, I'm not thinking about that. And that's not a thing that's important to me, because I'm just
a stick to your leaf.
Yeah. Because I have the thought of, I'll just make a sandwich tomorrow. I'm not worried about it. I'm never concerned with what lunch tomorrow is going to be.
Right.
But she's, thinking about the bigger picture. She's a planner. She's much of a bigger picture, thinker, than I am. So then realizing that, I'm like, okay, so it actually is important to figure out what time we need to leave, and then you go ahead and stick to it. And a huge service that I can do for my wife is, although she by default will take the reins of planning, if I can do that for her and she doesn't have to, I can take the responsibility off her, then that allows her to enjoy the whole Sunday. Whereas without that, then she's the one, she feels like she's having to take control of it and everything, which, she is, because I'm just like, we'll leave whenever. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Right.
So if I can take that off of her, it's not that difficult for me, and it relieves her of having to deal with all that, that frustration.
So good stuff. All of this kind of just to bring it back full circle, everybody's personalities are hugely different, but we have a lot of similarities, and we can find a happy meeting in the middle medium for any relationship that we're in. And then back to the communication, it is vitally important that we, again, listen with both ears, to speak with one mouth, and to slow down and really kind of absorb what other people are saying, so that we can have a better life. I mean, better relationships, better communication. It really comes full circle when you pay attention and your strengths and your weaknesses, so that you can relax those a little bit. So I've gotten asked many times from the people that have attended the A-Team networking group that we have each Wednesday, why I'm not running the whole thing, because I have that personality and ability to just take charge and make it the Kristi show for 90 minutes. And I would have a blast doing it. I don't have a problem with the microphone. I don't have a problem with front stage and running the whole kit and caboodle, but I know my personality. And another quirk of mine, or not really a quirk, but another side of my personality, is I love to see other people experience things that they didn't think they could, or that they would be comfortable with, or that they would survive.
Yeah.
And so if I ran the whole thing, I would miss out on all of that. I would miss seeing people blossom and challenge themselves and try new things. And that's one of the things I look forward to every Wednesday, seeing people keep growing in themselves and getting up there in front of other people. And then when we go around to other events, like the chamber events at the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce, when we do events there and I see A-Team members stepping up into roles that they would not have otherwise have done if they didn't have that comfort and that confidence that they got from the A-Team. And if I let my personality, which is to run things and manage things and control things and handle things, take over, they would not be at that that level. So knowing your strengths and weaknesses and curbing them and controlling them and conditioning them, it's always going to be there in us. But one of the things that you learn in that, if anyone reads that book from Dr. Hartman, The Character Code, it teaches you can be a healthy personality or an unhealthy personality. It is your personality. It's what you're, you don't really change. You just, you don't get rid of it, but you can change and you can learn to control it and become a better character because of that knowledge and stuff. Or you can just keep being a bad one if you want to.
Exactly. Be self-aware, be a value to yourself and a value to the other people around you. And understanding a little bit about your personality is exactly how you can do that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Business Between the Lines, our mini-series pre-launch show leading us into the full launch of Business Between the Lines, where you'll hear from Kristi and Jayson and their incredible guests, and you'll always walk away learning something to improve you personally and professionally. Thanks for watching.